Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. It's Friday. It's December the 6th. It's a friendly Friday, and we have my friend Steve Friend joining me momentarily. We're also going to do something that we don't normally do, which is going to be play something on the fly. This is a live show, and we're going to be bringing on Gary from Patriot Coolers a little bit later to do the drawing for the free cooler and 2 tumblers for those of you that used our promo code over the Black Friday weekend sale, the Cyber Week sale, if you will. So that's going to be really fun. If you're joining us on Apple or on Spotify, iHeartRadio, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we're excited to have you here. You will also be able to hear in case you are the lucky winner. So make sure you guys tune in all the way through and find out who's the winner. Here's what we're going to talk about today. I've got some information about the Fed and some sort of positive indicators about the economy, which is kind of good. I think a lot of that has to do with Donald Trump coming in and less to do with the Fed's rate cuts, but we'll see. I've got friend to talk about it here. We've got a little bit more about the Biden pardons. Let me just kind of run through the list here. We're going to be talking about the CEO killer and how we seem to know more about this guy already, including a picture, which we will share momentarily. A wild story out of Ecuador, which you probably haven't heard anything about, but seems pretty neat. And we'll get a little bit deeper into the Doge necessities, including how many people in the federal government actually show up to work on any given day. It's Federal Friday as well as a Friendly Friday, so that's actually really timely. Let's go ahead and say thanks to a sponsor that decided to jump back in with us, and we're really appreciative and grateful they did. So let's just talk about our friends over at The Wellness Company. Folks, big changes on the horizon. Picture this, Donald Trump coming back into office, RFK Jr. taking over the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, and getting ready for that shakeup. In fact, RFK even posted that the FDA's war on public health is about to end, calling out their suppression of treatments like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and essential vitamins. Timing couldn't be better to introduce to you the Wellness Company's emergency kits. There are many of them, and you should check them out. These kits will cut through the red tape. They give you the opportunity to access hard-to-get medications that may save your life. Be prepared for over 30 illnesses without stepping into an urgent care or having to go to a pharmacy. Talking about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, a Z-Pack, amoxicillin, even EpiPens if you need it. Everything you need to take control of your family's health. And they do have guidebooks that outline the common treatments for UTIs and strep throats, bacterial infections, bite wounds, respiratory illnesses, and more. All it takes is filling out a digital intake form, and then your kit can arrive in as little as 1 to 2 weeks. Yes, they even have kits for kids. I've got one sitting on the desk here that I'll show you. It looks like this. This is kind of cool. There you go. No more sick out inconveniences. Order your kit today. Head to twc.health/Kyle. Again, that's twc.health/Kyle. Use promo code KYLE. Save up to 15% off, and you can get free shipping as well. That's twc.health/Kyle. Use promo code KYLE for 15% off, free shipping. Do it right now if you guys are interested, and I think there's a great reason for U.S. residents only. All right, I'm gonna say, let's do this. And here he is, the man, the myth. How you doing, my friend, Steve Friend?
I'm grateful to be here, my friend. I missed you last week. I kind of feel like I need this Friday to reset my week. I don't even know what day it is unless we have a regular Friendly Friday appearance. So it's kind of like the clock set back. I just feel off, and now I'm reset, ready to go.
So we did the afternoon show for 1 week, which I've been calling K-Light savings times because it wasn't really that great, and it really messed up my week. And I've had so many listeners call and tell me and or send me messages, and they're like, "Man, if you're not in the morning, it screws up my day." And it screwed up my day. And not having you on the Friday, it kind of anchors the week. And the chat is even saying right now that they missed you as well. Let's get into some stories, shall we? So let's get into the weeds here.
Let's send it.
All right. I like getting into it. First of all, we are going to cover assassin stuff, and I've got fun things so we can make fun of FBI executive. But let's start with we're going to start from like sort of mundane money, and then nefarious money, and then violence and chaos. So that's kind of where the day rolls in. Jobs report shows that there's a hiring surge. The Fed is weighing cutting interest rates. So we'll read the story here from ABC. Fresh data marking the first report since the election of Trump. I think that has a lot to do with it. Max Zan stating that U.S. hiring surged in November, bouncing back from a dismal performance the previous month and returning to strong growth. I love the returning part, like they're acting like Biden was involved. Employers added 227,000 jobs last month, exceeding the economists' expectations of 214,000 additional jobs, says the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Hang into this one because we'll go back to the U.S. Bureau of Labor in a bit. Unemployment ticked up to 4.2%, which still remains historically low. Of course, you've always got to cover for the Biden administration whenever possible. Historically low. What do you think? You think it's because of the election? Is it because of the rate cut? What makes people hire more folks in this time?
Well, we are coming up on the Christmas season, so definitely going to be a lot of hiring over at Amazon and all the retailers as they prepare to get into the black here. And then there's going to be
It's not mentioned in the article at all that we were actually in a seasonal uptick for seasonal employment.
Yes, and the gig economy as it exists. And then we're going to wait for the revision to come back, and we find out that it's actually people that are doing like second and third jobs, and they're driving Uber and delivering food and pizzas and all that. And then how many of these were actually government jobs? As now we come into the new fiscal year, there's going to be some money at the fingertips of all these agencies so they can pay people to just stay home and collect a government check because people need jobs and nobody's coming to work, including at the FBI, which they put out guidance earlier this week that said you can continue to enroll in the telework program because of the COVID virus still in 2024.
Which is crazy. I guess like Taylor Loren is running the COVID policy at the FBI or at
Who
DOJ.
wins a fight between Chris Wray and Taylor Lorenz?
Can she wear her mask?
Yeah, it's like a Bane mask. It's a complete intimidation.
I think she wins. I think Chris Wray is probably stronger than we give him credit for. He looks like he's got very soft hands and probably hasn't gotten dirty. He's still a man. He
probably fights dirty. I could see crotch kicks, but they would be no impact on Taylor Lorenz.
That's a really dark place to go with this. Okay, let's move from sort of like the boring money, which it is boring to just read like jobs reports. It doesn't get me excited about anything. Although I do think it's kind of fun to see sort of the narrative shift because over and over, whenever I see this stuff, it's constantly like, it was amazing, the amazing Biden economy. It's like, guys, November actually should have told you that people didn't buy this. I know Americans didn't. In fact, let's talk about this. We just were able to scrounge up, or we were, I guess, helpful to contribute a $50,000 contribution to the Officer Down memorial page, right? Through a benefactor. And when I reached out and spoke to the executive director, I guess he's the former executive director, he's still on the board. He said, this year has been tough for charities, even law enforcement charities that collect on behalf of widows and spouses of folks that have fallen and kids that go into, that want to go to college, that their parent was a cop that died. And that's a pretty strong indicator when people can't take care of the fallen law enforcement, like where the economy really sits.
Yes. And even if people are making a habit of being charitable, I mean, if you're tithing, 10% of a lower income is going to be overall a lower amount of money that you're tithing. And I think that that's a small percentage of people that actually fit that into their budget. I think the disposable income for almost every single American who actually feels a pinch, other than like your Bezos and your Oprahs out there. Look, you got to put the mask on first when the plane decompression happens and take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't take care of your neighbor. And a lot of people are just tightening their belts to take care of their family. And the statistics around the credit card expenditures and the debt going up and the bankruptcies, tough times are coming, and that's probably why we're seeing the rate cuts happen, and they're starting to indicate, well, happy days are here again. We're going to have lots of loose monetary policies, but ultimately the underwriting of all of this is we have to prepare ourselves. On January 20th, nothing is going to change on January 20th economically. Like even the first 2 years of the Reagan presidency were hard, but at least there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think people might be, hopefully, are going to be a little bit more patient than we are want to be right now. I mean, the average attention span is like 47 seconds. It's going to have to be closer to 24 months.
That's like a goldfish, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that's actually real. You know, we all have this like instinct that goldfish apparently have like a 15 or a 50-second memory or something. But like, is that true? Or are we
They're
just
actually, reciting Shakespeare. Just you
it's
can't
possible.
hear them.
Yeah, it sounds like this though. Bloop bloop. Okay, let's pivot over here. This is a little bit more interesting, sort of a little bit more nefarious type monies. Biden considering that blanket preemptive pardon, which we talked about for perceived enemies, still causing the political left to kind of melt down about where they fall on this. CBS tends to be kind of center-ish left, saying that he's considering the blanket preemptive pardons. I think it says so much about what that administration did, and I've never heard of anyone doing that. They're acting like it's a Donald Trump issue, but clearly it's not, especially with the recent release of COVID information, the fact that we've got retired General Mark Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, calling Trump a fascist, and they think that's going to be the problem. I don't think that's going to be where we're going to be living. I think what we're going to see is that they need pardons, as they said previously, because there were allegations or information that a crime was committed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think you're spot on with it, but I also think it's an opportunity to engage in the mutually assured destruction that I consistently argue for. I've been asking, where is the lawfare from the right against the communist left? Mm-hmm. It's always coming from the other side. And we just say, well, we can't have a tit for tat. We have to come into the gunfight with just a letter from mommy that says Constitution on it. And the left and the communists don't recognize that. It's an asymmetrical battle. The same thing needs to happen with the pardons. The preemptive pardons with Hunter Biden, and now they're going to pardon Fauci. Okay. Well, anybody that's a political appointee coming in, or the Donald Trump administration, needs to have a preemptive pardon so that they can actually go in there and do what they're directed to do without fear of reprisal from a future administration because they happen to be an employee of Donald Trump. So I think that it's suboptimal. I wish we didn't exist in this time, but to fail to recognize that means that it's just going to continue to spiral out of control, where one side embraces the fact that we're in this cold civil war and the other side is just holding out hope that we can all just get along and maybe have unity. I'm sorry, you're never going to have unity with the other side, including when the argument is, well, just don't have the boys play girls sports and then we can have unity. The other side wants to put you in a cage. They want to take your children away. They gleefully hurt you for the last 4 years.
They put Peter Navarro in leg irons. Like, it's the absurdity of all this stuff is really crazy. In an airport, by the way, at Reagan Airport. I don't know if have you flown out of Reagan before?
I have. Yes, that's where I caught one of the guys that was keeping me company.
Oh, good. Well, Reagan is not like, I mean, it's full of politicians. It's full of people of note. There are people from the national media that are constantly flying in and out. It's not good. Anyway, I've got a little clip from CNN I'm going to play about the sort of Biden pardon move. I like that CNN is acknowledging, at least they're letting their guests come on, or their sort of contributors. They've got Sir Michael Singleton, who continues to be a voice of sanity, just like Scott Jennings is. And they're vying for ratings by putting conflicting opinions that are going to jibe with the echo chamber. I think it's actually the best move that they've done in years, because they used to just not represent any other opinions. And now they're like, hey, if we have a little bit of conflict on the video screen where people are watching, they probably don't want their viewers educated, but at least there's the possibility that people will get inflamed and hear the other side, which, that's how you play this game. Let's listen to this little take about how they've just basically trashed the Democrat position.
Democrats portrayed the president as this great arbiter of morality and truth. They said that he somehow was a better standard bearer for protecting norms and the institutions of our country, and yet that wasn't true. They lied. You can go all the way back to 2022 when they were asked this question. And the White House consecutively lied over and over and over again. They could have simply said, to MJ's point, to Chuck's point, the president isn't going to put his thumb on the scales of justice. He's going to wait. He hasn't made a decision yet. Most people would have expected that. They would have respected that. I think most people, to your point, Chuck, believe if it was my child, I probably would have done the same thing. That's not the issue, Jake. The question here, the burden on the White House, I would argue, is the continuous lies. You said that you were better than this other guy. You criticized the other guy for all of these things, and now your DOJ is committing witch hunts, and this is now politicized. Well, you appointed Merrick Garland. You can't blame Republicans for that. And I can only imagine, as I've talked to a lot of Republicans, if this were Donald Trump, and I know people are going to give him a lot of criticism for the pardons he's already given, but if this were him and Don Jr. or Eric Trump or Ivanka, I can only imagine what the headlines would have been. And I will say, if you're Democrats and you're trying to walk this straight line that we're somehow better than Republicans because we care more about the future and state of this democracy, I think that's trash now. No one believes it. No one believes they've lost all credibility for the facade they portrayed for several years.
The facade that they portrayed for several years, pretty good. Let me just throw this as a thing to chew on. Steve Friend, my buddy. How often do we say that Democrats like to accuse everyone else of doing the thing that they're actually doing? It's that version of projection. And sometimes that actually makes the masks slip. How often do you hear that sort of statement?
Daily, if not hourly. That's entirely what the sociopaths do.
So listen to what he just said there a second ago. What he mentioned was the DOJ piece, right? Lies coming out, kind of the better liar, because Biden does it, but everyone knows he's lying because he's kind of a lying old guy. But there was a guy that used to sell lies really, really well, and his name was Barack Obama. He was a master manipulator of many people. He was charismatic. I think he's kind of slipping as he's getting a little older. You can see the gray sleep, everyone kind of slows down a little bit in age. But this might be one of those moments of dropping the mask. You tell me what to walk away with this little moment that Obama slipped out on in the light of projection. Enjoy hearing what sounds like really, he's not mentioning, he's talking about Republicans, but it doesn't sound like it to me.
There are going to be times potentially when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents. And in those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure. That's okay. In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm.
Oh.
Thank you, President Pot Calling Kettle. Let's talk about how he just recently came out and talked about how divisiveness is really a threat. This is the guy who took the 2008 Hope and Change and then reconstituted his coalition and said, if you're white, you're evil, and we're going to try to weaponize the government against you. He's one of the most evil, vicious, vile Marxists who's ever been in a position of leadership for the entire country. Everything he says is just poison. He just happens to say it smoothly and charismatically, and I'm really happy that it's starting to slip. He's had a Joe Biden moment there for all to see.
A little reboot.
He's a terrible person who would put you or me in a cage and take our children away and say, well, it's just necessary. Look, the plurality demands it here. Let me be clear, President Pot Calling Kettle. I fully embrace and accept the battlefield conditions as they exist in the political sphere, rhetorically, that we're in a cold civil war, and I don't want to be here, but I will embrace the fight. And I want to see an energetic executive come in and completely shatter everything that you have done and punish my enemies. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. We didn't get the Matt Gaetz. Maybe we'll get the Kash Patel come in and bring about retribution. That is necessary at this point. One side has punished the other to a point where we cannot coexist. There is no unity possible until we see guys like Andy McCabe in an orange jumpsuit with their SES anal beads to match them.
Yuck. Gross. But also, I just want to just take what he said and agree with him. I just don't agree that he was talking about Republicans. He said exactly what needed to be said. He was speaking to the mirror. A line has been crossed. The politicization of the DOJ and the DOD. It's like, hey, man, we agree with you. Yeah, you did that. And your people did that. And your guy came in, the Joe Biden figure came in and did that. Whether he was listening to, remember the whole story about him like maybe whispering in the earpiece? That was like that's sort of gone away. Nobody's really talking about that. But is he calling the shots for the Democratic Party? It seems like he still pops out there. I've never seen a former president spend as much time in front of a microphone campaigning as you do. Usually they sort of shut up and go become elder statesmen.
They go and step back. He bought a house in Washington, D.C. He wants to keep his grip on the power and also have the accoutrements of the Netflix deals. This is the guy.
That is a line being crossed too, isn't it? I mean, in let's say, what has been historically, we don't see that. Think about where's where's George W. Bush? He retired to a ranch in Texas, right? Reagan had a ranch out in California. Like, these people do not stick around Washington, D.C. to see if they can still lean on the lever of power. Unless Joe
Bill
Biden's
Clinton,
in there.
Started that whole global initiative that he could bilk off of, but also I think that was being
I feel
largely
like that was a
driven
Hillary move.
by Hillary.
Call me crazy. I feel like Bill Clinton would have just been happy to leave the politics behind and just go bang secretaries like he is accustomed to doing. That seemed like a thing
Yoga
that he would
instructors.
Probably,
That's
whatever.
his jam.
Massage therapists or whatever it is that Bill Clinton is into. I feel like Bill Clinton would have just been fine doing that. But he needed to go and open up the big money grift because it needed to be able to fuel the demonic soul of that creature that didn't make it. Man, how many bullets did we dodge in 2016 in November? That momentary speed bump in the agenda. People are going to look back 100 years from now and see that and just go like, whoa, what a crazy thing that happened. And then 4 years of Biden where they kind of went like, oh man, they're almost back on the agenda. And then now this November, this next 4 years is going to be insane, I feel like, of wailing and gnashing of teeth and people throwing themselves at the problem and just losing their minds. But we haven't seen it yet. I feel like they're all saving up for chaos. It's
what if game you could play about the 2016 election, if Hillary Clinton had decided to go to Wisconsin one time, the derivatives of that are shocking. Like, just think about something simple. The governor race in Florida in 2018, Ron DeSantis got elected because he got an endorsement from Donald Trump in the primary, and he won that, eked that out by like 30,000 votes. He's not the governor of Florida. You don't have the free state of Florida where I live right now in 2024 if Hillary Clinton is the president. And she probably gets 2 terms. So we're looking at, I don't know, President Tim Kaine at this point, right?
Yo, who nobody even remembered in the SNL. That was a really good skit that I saw on SNL where people were just like, who was Hillary Clinton's running mate? And they're like, I don't even know. It's bad. Yeah, and no name recognition, even though he still hangs out there. Let me break away and do a read for our buddies over at the Blackout Coffee Company, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk for a few minutes about this killer, and we may break into the excitement with our Patriot Coolers guest in just a moment here. So let me just start with this one right there. All right, folks. Let's tell you about a company that's shaking up the coffee world and shaking up some of our listeners. You guys recommended them to me. I tried them because of you. Blackout Coffee. It's not your typical run-of-the-mill brew from a corporate giant that doesn't share your values. Blackout Coffee is bold and unapologetic and truly America first. This month, Blackout Coffee is making it easier than ever to give the gift of amazing coffee or cocoa or tea and more. That's right. Blackout Coffee is running sales all month long. They're still doing their Cyber Week right now, folks. So you can check that out. Whether it's a bag of the premium roasted coffee or delicious hot cocoa or a box of specialty teas, you'll find something that is perfect for everyone on your list. And we've got some in the mail right now, so I'm pretty excited about it. Don't forget about the gear. They've got mugs and T-shirts and so on. If you need coffee gear or coffee accoutrement, you can get that there too. Designed to make a statement because enjoying a great cup of coffee should look as good as it tastes. Yeah, and you're kind of saying something to your colleagues, aren't you? Don't wait. Head over to blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle. It's blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle right now. Stock up for the holidays. Grab gifts that you can actually use, that you will use and send, and people will appreciate. If you're going to spend money on a luxury item, why not something that you do every single day? Support a company that stands for what you believe in, serves up quality that you can taste. It's blackoutcoffee.com/Kyle, and it's in the show description. Guys, use that promo code or use the link. Take your pick. Let's go. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about killers. Should we talk about killers?
I'm always game to talk about killers.
Let's hear about, okay, I played it yesterday, but I'm going to do it just for you because we're both former FBI agents, and I always like to know what other very capable former FBI agents have to say. We made fun of him, but I'm going to do it anyway, again, because I like to do it with my friends. First, I'll do it by myself, and then we're going to bring on, here it is, Andy McCabe, expert, talking to Jake Tapper, giving his opinion on the professional, the high degree of marksmanship, the precision of the shooter, and how he is likely doing this for a living. Yeah, I just paraphrase it all, but let's just listen to him say it in his own words, because he looks like he's not getting sleep. Just saying.
The suspected gunman has now been on the run since just after 6:45 a.m. this morning. He's believed to have used a silencer. What is with the information we have? What does it tell you about the sophistication of this attack?
Well, Jake, the details and nuances of this attack are extraordinary. They do betray an astounding level of pre-planning, of organization, and it should also say cool-headedness. And all of those things together would point towards a very competent assassin and potentially even someone who does this for hire. We know first by his use of the weapon. He's carrying a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. It appears to be equipped with some sort of silencer or
some sort of silencer. Yeah, we don't need to listen to all that. High degree of precision, lots of training. In a flirtatious moment, and writings on ammunition and a bottle offer clues in search of the gunman who killed United Health CEO Brian Thompson. This is coming from CNN this morning. And what are you seeing on the screen but the smiling, very pretty face, of the guy who did it? Probably a very competent assassin who does murder for hire. What say you, Steve Friend? How many times have you tried to flirt with the girl who's making your coffee, or the boy, I can't actually tell, and given your face away just before you went and smoked a dude on the streets of New York City? Is that competent assassin to you?
I don't know.
Come on, give me an opinion here.
Look, the dude looks like a lady, actually. That's got me right away thinking like, who is the barista? And maybe there is a reason that we're not going to find out anything like that. But
it was a female. It was a female employee, and it was at a hostel. So that was my bad. This was at the hostel where he was staying. So this is someone who commuted in to do this. Female employee. We did say an attractive looking man, though. Harold, I got the pictures. Let me put a big one on the screen real quick. One sec. So there he is, released by New York PD's Crime Stoppers. Here's another picture, multiple angles in the hostel. Looks like kind of a nice hostel. In any case, lowered the mask, shared the face. This should be real easy. We now know more about this guy than we do about the J6 Pipebomber.
100%. And I do think it's funny that you could be so rage-filled that you orchestrate and plan. I mean, this guy planned. I'm not saying it was a perfect plan. I don't believe he did get away with it for the time being, at least.
Mm-hmm. 3 days now.
But he could not resist hitting on the hot chick at the hostel. Like, he's about to go do a murder, and he thought, oh, maybe I'll get her digits. Maybe I'll hook up with her later. It's laughable. Look,
they're never going to find me. That's how professional he was, though. Obviously, so
he's so professional. He stood out under a streetlight in one of the most photographed, surveilled areas in the entire continent, if not the entire world, where there's cameras on every street corner, and they are on every single business, and it's 50,000 police officers, not to mention any sort of like federal assets that they have there. His presentation of the weapon, he's a cool, calm, and collected, very competent killer here, where he brings it down like tomahawk style and then teacups it from the bottom. So I don't know how competent of a shooter he is. Maybe it works for him. Nobody who I know who's a capable shooter actually engages in that sort of technique. But he could have just walked up to the guy, and if he was a proficient, paid for murder for hire guy, I don't think he would have done it in that way. But he took a shot, and then he wanted to actually leave the message, which is a whole thing. Like, the guy probably watched a little bit too much movies or television shows because he really wanted to do it. I think ultimately what we'll find out from this is that this guy he or somebody who he's friends with or family members with had some beef with the insurance company, and that'll probably come to light here in the next few days when they capture him, because the manhunters are going to be really good at doing this. They can track him. They can track his cell phone or his purchase history or just the surveillance tapes. They've recovered some of the fingerprints, maybe some DNA. If his DNA is not in a criminal database, it might be an ancestry.com sort of thing where they realize, oh, wait, his third cousin twice removed, and now we've narrowed the pool down. Or ultimately, what I predict it'll be is human intelligence. Somebody will see his picture and say, that's my brother. I don't want him to get killed.
I cannot believe that Marcus went and smoked that dude. That's what it's going to end up like. Do you think Andy McCabe knows anything about what you just said based on his significant experience of being a counterintelligence investigator in 2003? What do you think?
Any Andy. Let's remind the audience. But
yeah,
I was mostly distracted by the fact that he looks a lot like the host, or what's his name?
Benny
Jake
Johnson.
Tapper. The glasses, they're all devolving into the same.
You're talking about Andy. Yeah, no, they all
they all look like older, Rachel Maddow. They all look like lesbians.
They're all looking like older lesbians. You're correct. You're 100% correct. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, Steve, I'm going to give you a break to grab a cup of coffee. If necessary, we're going to do something that we promised to do here a little bit ago. Folks, I've got Gary. He's going to join me from our friends over at Patriot Coolers. They are fantastic. Gary, coming to you right now. I got to throw you on the screen. How you doing, brother? I didn't even do a sound check, so there you are. Yeah, I can hear you great. You look good. Let's talk about this. Are we ready to draw a name and give somebody a Black Friday prize pack? Oh, hold on. Gary, I blew it. You're talking and I muted you on the stream. So I was hearing you, but I had it muted because I blew it. Start over. That's so disappointing. I'm disappointed in myself. Go again. From the beginning.
That's all right. All right. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be giving away 2 tumblers, possibly customized with the Kyle Seraphin logo. We're going to let the winner choose. And then either a 24-ounce soft pack cooler or a 20-quart hard cooler. We're going to let the winner choose. Now, in order to choose the winner here, let me just bring this up. We're going to be using this nice little wheel here. Now, I didn't put names up. I don't really feel like doxing people today too much, but we have the names attached to these order numbers. So what do you think, Kyle? Are we ready to run it?
Yeah, let's spin it. And then I think we'd say the name.
I'll say the first name. And
yeah. And then we're going to reach out to them by email?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And now I have my windows all moved. So let's see. 3478.
Order number 3478. Go ahead and raise your hand and run down to the front of the bingo hall.
We're going to call that Paula S. Paula S is the winner here. We'll go ahead and reach out to you.
Okay, Paula S., you should be getting an email shortly, and you are the lucky winner. So congratulations to you, and Merry Christmas early from the folks over at Patriot Coolers. You want to plug anything else about Patriot Coolers you guys got going on?
We're going to have a couple Christmas sales come out here near December. I just want to say to the Kyle Seraphin family over here, we appreciate you guys. You guys help us out a lot, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
And I appreciate you guys being a sponsor for as long as you have, and I think you're doing great stuff, and your redesign over there of the site has been awesome. Gary, guys, you don't know, but he's been the one in the back end who's been trying to kind of change the vision of what the site looks like and created the Kyle Seraphin collection that you see. So go and look in the show description, and you can find our link and use the promo code KYLE. But that's it.
All right. Appreciate it, Kyle. Congrats to the winner. And
we almost did it seamlessly. That was a great little spin. We almost did it seamlessly bringing you on live, other than I had you muted because I'm a bonehead, and that's just how it works. But that is more proof that this is a live show.
You just wanted to give me more airtime. That's all.
That's it, buddy. All right. Thanks for jumping on, and congratulations to Paula S. So there we go. All right, we're going to bring Steve back on. We're going to keep getting into the weird stuff. We're talking assassins. We're talking nonsense. What do you think, Steve? Did you think you were going to win?
Damn it. My pseudonym of Trevor just didn't work.
Okay, can we do more? Okay, so we went from kind of the interesting violence that goes on in New York City. This is novel to us because we don't have this kind of stuff. Now I've got something that should be a movie. Are you ready?
Yeah, I love movies. Let's do it.
CBS story. Kidnapped soccer star rescued after shootout between police and captors in the Ecuadorian jungle. An Ecuadorian soccer star was held hostage for 3 days, rescued after a firefight between police and his captors in the jungle near Colombia. His name is Pedro Perlaza. He's 33 years old. He's a defender with the top flight club Delphin. He was freed along with another person who had been kidnapped. He'd been missing since Sunday evening. In a social media post Thursday, police said 3 suspects had been arrested that had demanded $60,000 in exchange for the release. A video was released by the police on Thursday showing the 2 men who were kidnapped, both barefoot, thankfully and tearfully thanking their rescuers. They've been treated badly, but they're alive. There were many bullets from the criminals, say the police, in the coastal town of Atacames. I think that's probably pretty close to the pronunciation. The kidnappers fled as the officers returned fire, and they were able to rescue several other people. Some of the kidnappers were wounded. This is like the real story, proof of life that, who was in that? Russell Crowe?
Oh, I was thinking more of like Predator. Like I want Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jesse Ventura just going full auto from the hip in the jungle.
Outstanding stuff. Yes. Why is that? I mean, it might have been. We don't know. Like, I have no idea. They could have probably had people that were as professional as the shooter in New York City on either side of that firefight.
Do you think they shot suppressed 9mm?
Yeah, one at a time. One shot at a time. For anybody who doesn't know, that was we did a whole demo the other day, but that was the gun not going into battery, which also to Andy McCabe apparently screams high degree of professionalism. Can you talk about the executive shoots that would be the basis for Andy McCabe's understanding of highly professional shooters?
Well, every FBI agent has to qualify quarterly. Well, you have to qualify 4 times a year. So there were some agents that would just do it 4 straight days, but you're supposed to do it every 3 months. And it was known that there were executive shoots where the senior level managers within the division would go themselves with the firearms instructor, the chief guy, and they would just magically qualify. They didn't want to shoot with the plebeian swine, the regular agents who were capable and competent. They didn't want to show how bad their qualification scores were. And there was no dispute. The well-known fact was that they basically just went there and were given credit for passing because they are not proficient with their firearms, because most of them actually don't carry their firearm anymore.
Nobody wants to be embarrassed in front of the rank and file, which nobody says except the media.
I had a senior executive request an executive fitness test because he knew he couldn't pass it, and they gave it to him.
I've been to those. I embarrass people. I did a Seraphin. Oh, you know what the best fitness test I ever did was? That was just like the ultimate bro move. I showed up to a fit advisor who was doing a fitness test for applicants. And I needed to accomplish my fitness test too. And so I ran my fitness test, and then the applicants did theirs. I was the medic for theirs because they required a little bit of medical, but I went out and ran my fitness test and and showed how to do it. And they were just like, "Don't embarrass us, Seraphin." And I was like, "You guys have no idea who you're dealing with here. I'm going to come out here and overperform. I'm probably going to throw up after the end of this thing. That's how much I'm going to put out because I always took it seriously."
Is that the one where you got ranked 3rd in the Bureau as a female?
No, I was still a male at that time, according to them. I told that to someone the other day. I told it to a senior fellow over at Claremont Institute, and he was like, "What a clown show." So
Look, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion put out a memo or a note bureau-wide that they are conducting a study for why the minority applicants / employees are struggling to pass the fitness test. People need jobs, right? They're going to study this, I think, for, I'm sure, a year. Plus, when we could all in 8 seconds know, it's because you hired people who are not capable based on immutable characteristics like the color of their skin rather than the content of their character.
And they weren't like super studs like this guy who apparently survived a shootout in the jungle. They were like mediocre types. We did have a guy actually that probably had a similar experience. We had a guy in my class, Deshaun. That's the only, I remember only his first name. But Deshaun claimed that his tactical experience and the reason that he was able to write up the active shooter response plan for the Detroit Zoo was that he grew up in the hood dodging bullets between cars, and so he knew about how to survive a gunfight. I am not making that up. Not even a little bit.
Subject matter expertise, right? You just want all of that diversity brought in. Guy who was protecting the chimpanzee cage is just as competent as every single cop I've ever worked with.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's weird. Okay, let's see. I was going to play some stuff about Pete Hegseth. Basically, he said he's not backing back down. I'll play his little quick video here. I think this is kind of interesting. There's this ongoing thing. We saw a release the other day. I've not seen anyone confirm it. That's apparently Cornyn has the votes for Kash Patel. So we saw some releases of that, but it's kind of like it's from Leading Report, and I don't always trust their sourcing because they've said some things that have turned out to be very untrue. But I do think that people are now more worried about Pete Hegseth than they are about Kash Patel. And the instinct that I have is the DOD moves a lot more money into the military industrial complex, into that security apparatus than the FBI. And so that director doesn't actually threaten anybody's pocketbooks. They're kind of like getting okay with Kash. But here they are going after Pete, and he's just telling them, like, look, a-holes, I don't work for any of you. He doesn't actually even work for Trump just yet. So let's play that.
And I'm proud of what I fought for. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group. None of you. Not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee. And I answer to my Lord and Savior and my wife and my family. I'm proud to be here. And as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
Yeah, so, the right answer is Kavanaugh style. Just double down and screw them, I think.
I think the attacks are sort of remind me of the way that Kamala Harris's presidential campaign went. And I compared it to the one game play-in in the baseball playoffs where if your pitcher struggles, you don't have the time to let him kind of work it out. You have to quick hook. So with Kamala Harris, it was joy. And then, this didn't work. Oh, so I've got a plan for that. No, that didn't work. Let's just bribe people. And then finally it was Orange Hitler. And they just were such a condensed time span. I think with this, they tried to do the Kavanaugh sexual assault thing and that didn't pass. And then they have to go, well, he's an alcoholic. And I'm sure something else will immediately come out because that hasn't held. And he's a disruptive force. Anybody who's a disruptor is a threat to the status quo. The American people sent a mandate on November 5th. That we wanted a disruption. But the mandate that was received by many, including the Republicans, like Joni Ernst, who probably wants to be the Secretary of Defense, was we have to keep the status quo, whatever we have to do. It's going to be the immovable force meets the unstoppable object, or however you want to say it. And I'd like to see Donald Trump weigh in on this and really push this guy
I like the
across.
unstoppable object. That's like the juggernaut. The juggernaut is the unstoppable object. It just happens to be a man. You mentioned the word joy. We talked about the compressed timeline just a second ago. You just said it. And so this new little scandal-ish type story got punched out there. I've got a really fun video that we're going to play. I always say the name of this podcast wrong. I always call it the Call Me Daddy podcast. And maybe that's because I have little girls who call me daddy. This is Call Her Daddy. And I don't know, maybe do you know the origin of that name? Because I can't tell if it's like, hey, there's something wrong with this girl. Call her daddy. Or is it like, call her daddy, like it's some creepy. What the hell does it mean? Why
I think she's off the Dave Portnoy tree, so I would bet you it's the more sexual innuendo.
Yeah, it's really gross. Anyways, this chick, I don't even know her name because she's just not relevant in my life, but she did have to sit down and answer a question. Apparently, the story has leaked that Kamala Harris and co, en route to spending $1 billion in 100 days, did so by doing really wild, stupid things that she can't even believe. And one of those is potentially spending over $100,000 on the set for sitting down and talking for one podcast that got less than 1 million views. For whatever it's worth, the podcast I did, the first podcast I sat down with Dan Bongino, I'm fairly confident they spent as many as $3,000 on the set. And they didn't have to spend it themselves. They just rented it probably for a couple $100 for the hour or two that we sat in there. $100,000 for the set made out of cardboard. And the Call Her Daddy chick can't even believe that either. So here we go.
There's a little bit of controversy about that podcast because you did.
Oh.
Do you know about this?
No, what?
Because in D.C., this interview happened in D.C.
Yeah.
In a hotel.
Yeah, not in a hotel. It was like a random house.
It was like random house. But apparently, you can tell me, they spent, the Harris campaign spent like $100,000.
I did see
you
that.
know about this?
It's hilarious.
To build the studio.
Yeah, it's not true.
Not true. To make it look like it was the studio that you used in L.A.
My studio that is gorgeous in Los Angeles doesn't even cost 6 figures. So I don't know how cardboard walls could cost 6 figures, but.
But do you think they did that? I mean, you saw it.
Absolutely not. With love to them. Oh my God, it was gorgeous, but like, it wasn't that nice. It wasn't like gorgeous marble. Like, no, that was not 6 figures.
Apparently the whole thing was just a money laundering grift.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no question that they spent 100. It's probably a low ball. They probably spent $250,000 building a set, just getting it out to whatever contractor.
She doesn't seem to get it. That's the best part. She doesn't get it. It's like, honey, you don't understand how Washington works. That's the best.
Call your daddy, and he can explain to you how.
Have your daddy explain to you. That's exactly correct. Holy moly. Okay, the other joy, because that was part of the joy. The part of the joy was spending $100,000 on a cartoon set for like 2 hours. The other joy is what's going on the political left as they continue to melt down and some of the fun that we have. And my favorite joy is, of course, Joy Reid, who used to do the cultural appropriation of Donald Trump's hairdo as a black female. I assume she's a female. I don't want to assume her gender per se. And she may not know what a woman is either. She kind of seems like a Ketanji Jackson Brown type. Here she is really, really mad We went kind of international, right? Talking about Ecuadorian rainforest shootouts. Now we're going to get back here and talk about gangsterism. You said you wanted a disruptor. Apparently Donald Trump is disrupting, and it's very upsetting to the other Joy. So get a little taste of this. I'll get your reaction in a sec.
But let's bring you back to the U.S. and to our local gangster, Donald Trump. He's not even president yet, and he's already spending his time sitting in his golden palace, Mar-a-Lago, muscling other countries like he's Tony Soprano with a social media site. Doing things like, reportedly, debating whether or not to invade Mexico. Threatening BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with 100% tariffs if they don't commit to trading in dollars and not their own currencies. Demanding Hamas release all hostages being held in Gaza before his inauguration, or there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East. Even reportedly threatening Canada.
He wants
clutch your pearls when you say it.
hostages, and that's a problem?
He wants to free hostages from Hamas. He's joking about invading a narco trafficking state of Mexico, which is probably one of the most corrupt, large countries in the world. I won't even go there anymore. I haven't wanted to go there in a long time. We actually talked about Mexico on the call-in show last night, including a very strange memory that one of our call-in guests triggered about seeing my late 60-year-old boss, a New York Jew, in a Speedo on the beach of Cabo San Lucas, which I had blocked out up until a few minutes ago. And now I can't stop thinking about the fact that there was an old man in a banana hammock. But who wants to go to Mexico? Who's mad about invading Canada? Even Canadians are thinking like, that might be okay. They're like, no big deal. Make them the 51st state. Call them Northern Vermont. Call them Western Maine. I don't know. We could do it. There's nothing wrong with this stuff.
Canadians are probably thinking that they want their Fruit Loops to be more brightly colored. They'd embrace that.
They might want it. Or they might think, hey, we're kind of a gun type nation. We have bears and mooses, or meese, whatever they're called. Right?
I'm
you ever seen a moose in person, by the way? Have you ever seen a moose? They're absolutely terrifying.
A bull moose is, yes.
I had one moment. Oh, forget the bull moose. How about the mama moose? I had one moment where I was on I was at survival school in Spokane, Washington, north of it at Fairchild Air Force Base. Is that what it's called? I think so. And I'm walking through the woods. I'm doing a nav. And I looked over, and it's a female moose. And to my right is a calf. And they're both probably like 20, 30 yards away from me. And I threw myself down a hill to get away from it. Because that is a really, really dangerous place to be. And anyway, I think the Canadians should be better armed than they are. They just outlawed a bunch more guns. They just said they want to take the guns from the citizens and send them to Ukraine. That's a story that I saw yesterday in my gun feed. Yeah, I don't think anybody would complain about Donald Trump annexing them. They wouldn't even fight back. They'd be like, yeah, come on in. Welcome, conquering hero.
I think that there's a lot of conservatives that are just overvoted by the metropolitan areas in Canada, and they don't have that many people. It's really not that populous of a country.
They have dozens of people. What are you saying? The Snow Mexicans are a strong force that are very sparsely populated. They have a huge country too.
It's massive landmass, massive coastlines as well. But
right,
I always come down to the fact that they're to the north of North Dakota, and I don't want to live anywhere as cold as North Dakota. I certainly wouldn't want to holiday in Toronto or anything.
Yeah, but if we take over the Snow Mexicans as Trump offered, then we could take over the real Mexicans too, and that would actually fulfill the prophecy that my wife made when we first started dating, which is that the United States could actually conquer all of North America down to the Panama Canal and make them all Americans. Then you won't have any illegal immigration because we'll have just taken over the places and made them Americans too. You just have to stay there now.
And we could put Canadian bacon into quesadillas, and we could have harmony and unity once and for all.
It's such a weird. That's really weird. Okay, you brought up Joni Ernst earlier. I wanted to play some more fun stuff. How about this? Because apparently she's been doing investigations. This is what we're hearing. This is coming out of the New York Post. The top Doge Elon Musk House Speaker balk at, I don't know what this is. Top Doge. I don't know what. Oh, top dog, I guess is the man. Come on, New York Post. What a weird headline. They balk at the Senate report showing only 6%, Steve Friend, 6% of federal workers show up in person on a full-time basis. It is, quote, absurd. You're seeing there that 0% of the Department of Energy is showing. What in the actual hell are we looking at? The Agency for Global Media has 2% showing up. U.S. Department of Agriculture actually sits right at the average of 6%. Department of Veterans Affairs, 7% of the employees are showing up in person. The 10 emptiest government headquarters buildings. What planet do we live on right now? How is this going on? FBI is doing the same.
Oh, yes. And this was why coronavirus exposed how unnecessary the government is. And there's the argument to be made, well, people are more efficient and they have a work-life balance. If you're on the taxpayer's dime, then you got to get your butt into the office and do the work that's supposed to be there. And if it's not necessary, then your job is unnecessary at this point. The fact that we were told in 2020 to come into the office in my 4-person office 60% of the time. The rest of the time you had to just work from home. When I worked on an Indian reservation and it wasn't possible to work from home. And I actually was an honest person. I said, hey, look, I spend less than 60% of my time in the office because I'm in the field, right? So I should just keep my regular work tempo. And they said, no, just don't work 2 days a week.
I was told that I couldn't come into the office because I wouldn't swab my nose. But my work was 100 miles away from the office on the Indian res, like so many people who work Indian country stuff. And I worked out of a trailer that wasn't even the main. It was part of the police department's like holdings. It was for the tribal police. Actually, it was Indian Affairs, so BIA police. But I would have been the only guy in my own room by myself hanging out there. I actually had my own trailer at my own house. I had a really nice Winnebago that was in the backyard because I lived on some acres. And it was all set up with power and it was set up with Wi-Fi. And I had an ERAS, which is a remote access.
Oh, you were lucky. I couldn't get one.
Dude, I don't even know why we got it, but I had a remote access classified network computer. There was zero reason for me to ever have to go into the office. And I've been revisiting this with my lawsuit with DOJ, how absurd it was. Meanwhile, these people in 2024 are still not showing up into the office to the tune of like 6% on average. It's freaking crazy. Absurd is the right word for it, by the way.
And there's not people like you or me who were actually doing work in the field because we couldn't do the work from the office. By and large, most government employees, their work is performed in the office. So any sort of argument that, well, it's not really fair because Kyle Seraphin was out, he had to drive 100 miles to go and address this case. You're the rare exception. Most of the people are there having to take calls. I mean, how many times you calling up on a government line now and it's being rerouted to their home? That's gross.
My goodness. Okay, so Department of Energy, it seems apparently they have almost 1 million total employees. Sorry, that's 1 million square feet. It doesn't say how many employees they have, but it says that 0% of their utilization of their cost per occupancy. That's insane.
And they're furnishing all of this too. They're buying furniture.
They're furnishing it. They're heating it. The lights go on every day automatically. Like, it's pretty wild. Okay, so let's do some of the other ones. How about Department of Labor? That's kind of fun. Only 9%. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I think that's where that one dude was, wasn't it?
The one that was stealing the suitcases?
Yeah, the luggage thief. That was 9. It says 9% there. The Office of Personnel Management only has 11% reporting into their physical. That may be the ultimate government statement. Less than 15%, 11% of the Office of the Personnel Management is actually showing up in person. You know what's crazy? I work every day from home today, and I work for me. And I didn't know that would actually be a thing I could do. But given deadlines and my ability to not really miss them, I would do fine working from home. And I would probably be more productive. Walking around the office, like people popping in and talking to you about their kids or like having a cup of coffee. Dude, there's so much waste that happens in the office. But at least we're physically seeing somebody accountable. I would probably have worked better from home.
You were in Washington Field, so I'm sure you saw it to a greater extent than I did. But on the occasions that I went to my headquarters, which were either in Jacksonville or Omaha, mostly in Omaha, I always got the sense of walking in there that you could show up, get your card on file, that you swiped into the building at 8:14, and then sit down, check your email, and then stand up and then just do the walk around and jaw jack for several hours, go get lunch, go work out, and then go up to another floor and go do the same thing, and then come back to your desk at 4:46 and then log out. And so that was, I would just walk around and there would be nobody there.
Okay, so we got to end with the joke because this is Friday and we're coming toward the end here. So let me give you the classic joke that I remember hearing, which you are now describing in real detail. You ready? This is about a Canadian postal employee. Okay. And the story goes is that he was a war veteran and he went to Afghanistan with U.S. coalition forces and he was in an IED attack. And he was, after triggering the IED, he had a lower body extremity wound. He actually had his testicles removed after the blast. And they also injured his lower abdomen. So they had to remove parts of his small intestine and also parts of his colon. Okay. So traumatically injured guy, disabled veteran, he has access now to additional hiring capabilities of, federal jobs. So he goes in for the interview with the Postal Service in Canada. And they were like, listen, you're very, very well qualified and you have this disabled veteran preference. So you're probably a shoo-in for this job. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like, tell us about your veteran status, tell us about your service. He goes, yeah, I was in Afghanistan. I was, I was overseas. I had a piece of my colon removed. I had a piece of my small intestine. I had my testicles actually amputated surgically from the explosion. Like pretty aggressive. I've got some leg wounds and stuff like that, but I'm able to do the job. I can sit in an office and I can type and I can work. And they were like, fantastic. You have any questions about it? He goes, yeah, tell me about the hours. Tell me about the job. What am I getting into? And they're like, pretty straightforward government job. It's a 9 to 5, show up at 9 o'clock and, we cut you loose and you'll get a regular paycheck. You got great benefits. And of course you got pretty good colleagues and so on and so forth and good stability there. And so he's like, okay. And they said, when can you start? He said, well, I can start on Monday if you want. And they said, great. Okay, well, we'll see you at 11 o'clock on Monday. And he says, I don't understand. You said it was a 9 to 5 job. Why 11? And they said, well, this is a government job. So for the first 2 hours, all we do is stand around, drink coffee and scratch our nuts. And it sounds like you can't drink coffee because of your intestinal problems. And there's no reason to scratch your nuts. So we'll just see you 2 hours later when we actually start doing the work at 11. Classic government. That's the way it works.
Perfect. You have AL, annual leave, SL, sick leave, and then JL, which is just leave, which happens on Friday around 2:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. So, Mr. Steve Friend, we're going to play something really fun. This is a machine gun thing that I've been holding on to for quite a long time. For all those that are getting ramped up about shootings and suppressors and other crazy stuff, you can still do it with cowboy guns. If you're listening to this, you need to tune into the end to be able to see this with your own 2 eyes. This is freaking wild. This is a badass cowboy shooter with a revolver that sounds like he's shooting a machine gun. I haven't tried this technique, but you can tell I'm definitely going to do it. Check this out, folks. It's freaking awesome is what that is. That thing is so cool. He fans the trigger with like his thumb and his index and his pinky, I think is what he runs across there is what it says. Really, really cool stuff. I've got a good palate cleanser for us today because we're talking about sort of making America great and people who seem resistant to it. I'll give you some final thoughts on what you got coming up on AMRAD, and people have been tuning in, so that's really good to hear. And then we're going to go over and we're going to cleanse the palate as we go into the weekend.
Well, thank you. And thank you to the audience. You guys have been jumping into the podcast. We're new time, new days, following up on the Kyle Seraphin Show on Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30. Same time tomorrow, 10:30, Saturday. And we're going to be talking about hating the game, not the players. Guys like Mitt Romney, who's a fan of hot dogs, and Joni Ernst, and Barack Obama, and all the people, the games that they're playing. So we got a whole host of examples. We'll get to that. 10:30 Eastern time on Rumble, rumble.com/AmRadPod is where you find us as always. And again, appreciate you guys jumping in this week. We definitely saw a big jump in our live views and hoping to keep the momentum going.
I just wanted to let it sit there for a second. Yes, that's a good statement. Yeah, no, just kind of a last little moment. All right, I appreciate you jumping in with me this morning, Steve. There's a poll that I've got to go look over on Locals. People can join our Locals. It's kyleseraphin.com, so go check that out if you want to add the poll on whether we try to take Steve's time. He has the final vote, but if we can take his time every Friday or if we're going to make it like a more exclusive thing, like a first Friday or a final Friday to make it really friendly. Not every Friday is really that friendly in real life, as we well know.
Look, I offer myself up as tribute, whatever you want.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up with a last little thought, which is that is America racist? Is America terrible? Is it just all a joke? This is what happens when you ask people who actually live in America to evaluate themselves critically. This is a little clip from Officer Brandon Tatum, who is pretty compelling. He's also got like a really nice delivery. I like the way that he just disarms these people. Sometimes you just use the Socratic method to dismantle leftist nonsensical arguments, and I encourage you to do it this way. Make them smile too. This is pretty charming and cute.
I just wanted to know, where are you from?
Texas.
From America, right?
Yeah.
I just want to know, when was America great for us black people?
Right now. Tell you it's great right now.
Really?
Yeah. It ain't great for you?
No, not at all.
How?
I mean, I'm living life.
Looking good. You got clothes on. Look well fed.
But that doesn't mean
Got
it's
nice,
great.
beautiful hair.
Oh, thank you.
Got your eyeliner on. You looking good. What kind of bag is that? That's a nice little bag there. You look good. America look good for you. If you were eating out of trash can, I'll tell you something different. America's a great place. I don't understand how we are not acknowledging that. It's great. Look at all these different people out here. Men, women, black, white. You will never see this much diversity anywhere else. It's the greatest place on earth. Everybody can be here and enjoy one another, disagree with each other. We have the freedom of speech, freedom to keep and bear arms. We don't have to worry about the government interfering in our lives for the most part. It's the greatest country ever. And if we don't start acknowledging that, we're going to screw up something good.
Got nothing to say. America look good for you. Got your nice hair in your bag, dressed clean, and you're not eating out of a garbage can. Well said. Go out there and disarm your neighbors with a little bit of kindness this weekend. Get off the social media things. We're going to be celebrating a little kiddo birthday for our house. And thanks for being part of the program. Make sure you share it. Make sure you like it. And make sure you are subscribed. Set up for notifications so you can see us when we go live. Congratulations again to Paula S. winning our little giveaway. And I look forward to seeing you guys after the weekend. Have a great one. God bless you. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.